How we message and how we fight like Republicans is what you were talking to Carville about. You talked to Begala about it a while back. Is they didn't bother with any of this. They just went ahead with 33 Benghazi investigations with Select Committee, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a theme for us. I mean, with Benghazi, they spent more time on that than we spent on Pearl Harbor or 9/11. Yeah. It's ludicrous, and they do that. They control the news cycle by doing that. And they say the kinds of things that then will make headlines. And you know, we talked a lot about it with Carville because our guys say like, well, they may be hiding something from January 6th. And they're like, in Benghazi, Clinton became a zombie and bit off the heads of our soldiers. And I mean, and so we need to, I mean, again, we don't want to be ludicrous like them, but we need to stop talking in this sort of dangling participles, maybe this, that. Like, they did this. They committed treason. They supported people that attacked the Capitol for the first time in 200 years. It was terrorism. It was sedition. And we're going to put together a committee. We hope they'll join us in a bipartisan way. If they don't, we're going forward without them because we're serving the American people.
This is how you can tell I'm listening to you guys on my bike or hiking, whatever. Is I'm like, yes, that's right. Why isn't anyone else saying it? That's me screaming, John, because I keep saying this, that I don't feel like hardly anybody except me, you guys, a few people get the urgency of what's happening. That this is an ongoing insurrection. It's not just January 6th. What's happening in Arizona and now Georgia and all these, voter suppression bills, it is a coup. And the main thing in it that I keep saying we're skipping over, it's not just the voter suppression. It's them just going, if we don't like it, we're just going to pick our own delegates. Just overturn it. Just say, we're getting rid of the Brad Raffenspergers, right?
No, I'm also worried. Cliff and I have talked a lot about this as to whether even the grassroots, whether our own listeners, no offense, folks, but whether people are, whether they think we've won, so to speak, right? Every time we mention Trump on Twitter. Now, I don't mention Trump often on Twitter on purpose, but sometimes it's important to remind people because he's still out there. He's still running the Republican Party. It's not like he's gone away. And whenever we bring him up, people are like, oh, why are you mentioning him again? Just ignore him, right? I think there's been a lot less interest in just all the stuff we all talk about since November. I think we won and people went, and they don't realize the battle didn't end. It's not like the election wasn't the end. January 6th wasn't the end, but I think there's, and again, our listeners, I don't think have that problem, right? So I'm not accusing you folks, but I think on the left in general, or as we said, our politicians, right? We're busy talking about the economy and COVID and we have to be, but can we pay a little more attention on the fact that they're trying to steal the next presidential election and have a coup?
Yeah. Well, in the midterms, Cliff, not just the next presidential, 2022. Yeah. Like, we have very little time to get all this stuff done, right? Before 22.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to jump in there, Stephanie. I wanted to jump on to what John said. I just feel like it's so important that, we tell people stories. We share narratives with people. That's what messaging is. And what John just brought up about COVID and healthcare, why we can't fit that into an overall narrative on they don't care about you, they're screwing you. Yeah. They let 580,000 people die in the same way they're ignoring an attack on our Capitol, which they inspired. I mean, these things go together, and yet
they tried to take away your health care. They tried to take away your health care, and they caused freaking COVID.
Right. They try to take away your health care in the same way they're now trying to take away your democracy. Like, we can do these things and share these broad messages that share our positives and their negatives. And I think the point that James Carville made, that John and I keep making, is, how is it that this party, Donald Trump, is still the most unpopular politician alive, and he's polarizing to the kinds of voters we want to win? They let nearly 600,000 people die because they ignored a pandemic. And they attacked our Capitol for the first time in 200 years. What would Republicans do? Like, we should be hanging that around their necks every single day.
And to John's point, he's not gone. Did you see the latest proclamation from the office of the 45th president? It's this months-old story. So from Mar-a-Lago, he blogs from months-old story about his plane sitting in disrepair. He's like, it's being fixed up to the finest requirements. It'll be back soon at rallies. I'm like, oh, Jesus. right? But
this plane's been in disrepair for years at this point.
Right.
It's in New York in some field, literally.
I think it only flies on McDonald's farts, as you guys were saying.
Thank you. They had to get that smell out, which is if you've gotten meat farts out of a plane seat, you don't know.
No, but he is. You're correct. He is leading the opposition.
Yeah.
He is leading the next coup d'état. We can't ignore the guy. But having said that, I think you know what it is, Steph. I think a lot of people are worried because think back to 2016, right? We all sort of ignored Trump originally. Then we all talked about him because we thought, oh my God, this guy's such a train wreck. It'll be great. He'll for sure lose the election. And there was some fear that by talking about him so much, we elevated him. And I think that's the conundrum people are in now. They think we're elevating him again when he was already president. He runs the party.
He's already elevated it.
Bingo.
If he was like a Twitter egg with 8 followers, like anybody that responds to people like that, I always say, if you find it fun responding, do it. But you're not going to accomplish anything. All you're doing is elevating some idiot. But when it's people who already have a large platform, you have to. I mean, and frankly, we can use him as a cudgel just to beat them with, rhetorically. And I don't. Yep. I mean, here's the most dangerous thing to me. I think it's important to say this quickly. And to me, the biggest story that just I can't believe, which is, Ruth Ben-Ghiat, who's an expert on fascism, has written books on it. Professor at NYU. We had her on our show. Norm Ornstein, Washington guy, center right, expert on politics. They were both just on CNN and asked if they thought if the Democrats win in 2024, Republicans in state legislatures in states that we won, like Pennsylvania, places like that, would let us win the election. And they both said no. Yeah. I mean, we're sitting here looking at it's not just the laws. They've eroded the democratic culture with their lies so much. And the media is acting like they're whistling past the graveyard.
Yeah. And actually, Steph, I don't know if you guys have previously explained to people how it works that they're going to steal the election in 2024.
No, go ahead, John.
It's actually quite simple in a way. They don't. Let's say that Biden wins again by 2 or 3 states, right? And by 2 or 3, I mean 2 or 3 states electoral votes. They don't have to lie and say, "Oh, Biden didn't win, Trump won," or whoever. All they have to say is, "Wow, Georgia, what a mess Georgia was, Arizona, my God, we're still having a recount in Arizona. What a mess Arizona is." In all fairness, we have to be objective and say it's not clear who won. So we're not sending any electoral votes to Washington.
Correct.
What happens then? The Electoral College gets together in beginning of January. That's both houses of Congress. And they look at the electoral votes and they say, you know what? Neither guy or gal has enough electoral votes to win. Neither one has 270 because we can't count those states that said they're not sending them. Yeah. Now guess who picks the president and the vice president? The Senate picks the vice president. The House picks the president. And if you don't think this group of House Republicans, if they take back the House next year, do you think these guys are going to pick Donald Trump Jr. instead of Biden? You better believe it.
Oh my God.
And each delegation gets 1 vote in that circumstance. It's important to point out. So who do you think the 1 vote from South Dakota or Montana, all these small rural states that only have 1 rep, it's not even going to be any debate. They're going to go for Trump. And then, again, this is the biggest story.
And there is no low. Like, really, literally, even if they're in prison, they'll that won't stop them. They will still pick Trump or Trump Jr.
The scary part to me is they're going to do it by saying, we're not taking sides. We're saying, Georgia, like I said, Arizona, my God, we're still having recounts. Can't we all agree that it's really confusing who won?
And then the AP will cover both sides of it and be like, well, Democrats claim, but Republicans claim we can't tell who won. And, that's what we're getting into here, and it's inevitable.
Yeah. John, I'm going to say it's because you've been hanging around James Carville that you use the word himbo, as in himbo eruption.
I love the word himbo.
You said Republicans are actually proud of the himbos they're electing to Congress. They are.
Yeah. Madison Cawthorn, dear Lord. He said, what did he say? He couldn't vote. He hasn't been voting in Congress lately because he had to service his wife or something?
Oh, God.
What the hell was that about?
Yeah. I don't know.
And then,
did he do it at the Eagle's Nest? Because that really gets him going.
It's on his bucket list.
It is.
And I love that his defense of that is, it was only Hitler's vacation house. It wasn't his real house.
Right. Okay. Well, that makes all the difference.
Look, I went to his office or his apartment. I went to just his vacation spot.
Then you'd be a Nazi. But speaking of which, so of course we can't ignore, of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene saying Nancy Pelosi and mask wearing is the exact same as executing Jews in the Holocaust. John, you said she is a virulent anti-Semite in a party that routinely traffics in anti-Semitic tropes, particularly at election time. If Democrats were better at messaging, we would hit Republicans repeatedly over their rank anti-Semitism. Stop letting them own an issue that they are awful at. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
this is just the latest.
Well, no,
yeah.
Well, and I think, but that's something where I could even, again, I could see folks listening to us going, I think so, but I'm not sure what you mean, because we don't talk about it. Donald Trump's closing, I mean, Cliff's actually gone, because Cliff has a better memory than I do on this stuff, but the closing ad that Donald Trump had before the 2016 election, and Cliff, what was it? A whole thing about globalists?
Like, globalists are coming to take away, your freedom and coming to take away your jobs. And he would keep showing pictures of like Lloyd Blankfein and Chuck Schumer and Mike Bloomberg
and Janet Yellen.
Right. What do they all have in common? I can't figure it out.
They didn't put like whispering like Ice Ice Baby in there, but just chew.
Yeah.
Chew.
It was four rich Jews. A couple weeks before, who was it? See, Cliff, again, I'm forgetting. Who was it in Congress, in the House, that tweeted the picture of Soros and...
It was Kevin McCarthy. Soros, Steyer, and Bloomberg. And even though Steyer was actually raised Episcopalian because he's half Jewish, but he has the name Steyer, and he's a billionaire, and he's on the coast.
True enough.
I'm surprised they didn't have like Photoshop like horns coming up slowly from their head.
They love to do this. Remember with the migrant caravan too. Remember George Soros's money, the rich Jews' money.
Right. And then what happens in a temple in Pittsburgh? What happens? A guy walks in and says, "This is Soros," and shoots how many Jews and murders them. I mean, we don't talk about. We mentioned Charlottesville, but it's like we forget all the other stuff.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, in all the talk about, the left's, drift towards socialism, there's no talk about how they are actually the party of fascists and actual Nazis, actual Nazis wearing Nazi flags. But okay. Yeah. And by the way, John, you and I as homos love to point out the Family Values Party. And talking about the guy that's trying to take over for Liz Cheney that got the 14-year-old pregnant and then she killed herself. Anyway, you said, just to clarify, if you rape a child, make sure you get her pregnant. Then it's not just okay, but a feather in your hat. I seriously wouldn't want any Republicans around my kids, even if I had any. And then Jason Miller just lost his lawsuit against the place that reported accurately that he slipped an abortion pill in his mistress's smoothie. So I know that's a while ago, the whole family values thing, but it's still what look what's happening with choice. They still...
I know.
Okay.
They lie about it. Stephanie, I got to tell you, it kind of freaks me out sometimes. Like, I hate saying that on the show, but they lie about everything and they get away with it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the family values thing is now, my God, ever since Roy Moore, if not before, right? I mean,
Roy Moore, Matt Gaetz, Denny Hastert, Jim Jordan. I mean, we can sit here and do this all day.
Yeah.
How many times have they been involved with children, let alone, right? Just the fact of sex with children scandals. And yet they go on. I mean, Jim Jordan should never be on TV again. If Jim Jordan were a Democrat, the speaker would tell him, you know what? You got all that weird child sex thing when you were a coach at Ohio State. I don't think you should be our spokesman anymore. On the Republican side,
by the way,
hey,
we got this out here. George Clooney's working on the documentary about Ohio State. We got that. We're going to take.
Seriously?
Yeah. George Clooney's going to take Jim Jordan down. Okay. Nice. And Cliff, you remain a scamp. You said it seems CNN has terminated Rick Santorum's contract early or aborted it, if you will. That is.
Oh,
you're a bad
I'm sorry,
man.
I couldn't help it after all that guy's. I mean, talk about, he's the perfect Republican that way. His obsession with lady parts, with man on dog, and who's having gay sex. I mean, like, this is who they are. And then you find out like they're hitting on 14-year-olds or impregnating them, or like Donald Trump wandering through their changing rooms, at beauty contests. And like, I mean, there's a reason. In other words, psychologists would call this projection.
Yeah.
They are obsessed with all this stuff because of their own sick minds and what they wish they could do.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not just saying this because you are part of the, just podcasting superstation, the Sexy Liberal Podcast Network. You guys are killing it with Unpresidented. I love it. I keep saying
Thank
this.
you.
Our brand is smart and funny. I'm telling you, there's smart liberals, there's funny liberals, there's the combination of smart, funny liberals is our brand, and you guys are just embody it. So thank you so much. I'm so happy you joined the network.
Before we sign off, Steph, is it too early for me to be making jokes about hugging and kissing Adam Kissinger?
Stop it, you.
John's got a little crush on you.
I've got and Adam just got married, but
John's an Illinois boy like him. I think John wants a shotgun wedding with him in Illinois.
Settle down with your post-COVID homoness. Just settle down, John.
Thanks, you guys.
Love you guys.
Set me free.
Take care, guys.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.
23 minutes after the hour, this portion of the show brought to you by If you have not heard of the Sexy Liberal Podcasting Network, your podcasting superstation, you suck. I mean,
Yes.
it is. We have the smartest, funniest liberals in the country. Stephanie Miller's Happy Hour. We have John Fugelsang. We have Hal Sparks, Frangela, Final Word, and Idiot of the Week. We have Bob Seska. Oh my God. We have Jody Hamilton from The Bunker. We have Start Me Up with Kimberly Johnson. We have Unprecedented. We have the smartest, funniest podcast, period. Get it now. SexyLiberal.com.